We cleared diabetes, we cleared AFib, we've cleared so many markers, even in older people that you would think, oh, they might not. It's incredible just making a few small changes. Once you metabolically change your life, you are unstoppable. Well, I always say we need to listen our gut feeling instead of just a noise in the head, right?
Welcome to the Wealth Insights podcast. In this episode, we're joined by Natalia Nalia, a health coach and biohacking expert who shares her incredible journey from Hollywood stylist to wellness advocate. Natalia discusses her transformative experience with food sensitivity testing, the importance of mind-body medicine, and how she helps clients look and feel years younger. She also delves into her unique approach to health coaching, emphasizing the need for commitment and hard work in achieving lasting results. This show is brought to you by Thea Health, dedicated to empowering individuals to take control of their health and well-being. Visit theahealth.ai to learn more. All right, let's get started with today's show.
Natalia,
Yes.
how are you?
Hi, Boris.
Welcome on the pod.
Thank you.
It's very exciting. We haven't actually met before. Usually people have met. So it's going to be, I think, a very unique conversation.
Totally.
Cool.
And thank you for inviting me. We're in Nashville.
I know. Nashville's awesome.
I love how you can be around the world now, doing all these things and recording and, translating the message.
Yeah, absolutely. So I did want to dive into one of the things that I think everybody's going to appreciate and you have a very unique vantage point on is looking and feeling 5, 10, 20 years younger is something you talk about. How does one go about looking and feeling, let's say 5, 10, or 20 years younger? What is your approach to getting somebody there?
Well, I started myself about 9 years ago where my pivotal moment was when I had my daughter and I saw the first signs of aging. And I was in my late 30s. I was 36 when I had her. And at that time, I already seen the hormone changes in my 30s, but I didn't know anything about it. I was like, wow, I was getting tired at noon and I wanted to take a long nap. And, all these things, even though I was a little bit proactive in certain supplements that I knew about it. And, but it wasn't really clicked till I had my daughter. And then that's when it was like, wow, I suddenly saw the whole aging process just in 1 year, right? And then also the health wasn't there. Being a new mom, also having a full-time job. I was running my fashion business, having a clothing line. It was just, I was like, wow, I need to change something. I need to change not just my health, but also the way I function in life. Like I wanted to be around my daughter for a whole year.
Yeah.
My ex-husband, he was basically a housewife. And I was like, this is so wrong. But yet I wanted to continue to succeed in my career.
Yeah.
But then I realized what I was doing then when I became a mom and I had a family now, it did not work for me in any stage. Then I sat down myself a year later. I was like, how do I need to change my life, my health? And I literally pivoted and I said, what else do I love besides fashion? What else? I went deep down inside and I was like, I always loved health. My dad taught me all about health. He actually converted me into herbs since I was 15 years old. It was, I remember, you remember this Herbalife?
Yeah, I remember.
So
yes.
back in the days, he was so passionate about Herbalife. When I was 15, he started making me drinking smoothies and a bunch of vitamins. And I think he was the big part of like getting me into that trajectory. And then I pivoted in my when I was 36. Literally, I was like, now I'm going to biohack. I had no idea what biohacking means. I just wanted to feel good. I wanted to learn everything about how to eat properly to change how I look, how to reverse your whole skin and not to see the wrinkles and not to age and don't see like the tiredness of the eyes and many other things. I was getting sick, like my sinus infections were so bad after I had my child. Literally every month I would go see my ENT doctor and he's like, famous one in Beverly Hills, and he would do all the swabs. He's like, there's nothing wrong. I was like, okay. So then after like 4 months, he goes, why don't you go see this doc, functional doctor, and do the food sensitivity test? I'm like, what? Okay, I had no idea what that means. So I ran to this doc. We're like starting running food sensitivity. He also suggested to do a heavy metals test and mycotoxin test. And that's where the whole journey just started unveiling. I was full of toxins. Soon as we came back, my food sensitivity came back. I had 40 foods that I couldn't be eating, the most healthiest foods, which I was like drinking the carrot juice, spinach, or doing the apple cider vinegar with lemon and honey and cayenne in the morning, flashing my liver, then the juice. All of that were in the red zone, inflaming me. Literally in 1 month, I looked at that list. I stopped putting everything in my body, whatever not needed to be in my body. And I didn't have a sinus infection since then.
Amazing.
So that was the pivotal moment. And then, of course, the heavy metals cleansing. It took a long time because it's not an overnight. People think like I'm going to cleanse for, over the moon cycle. No, it took me literally 5 to 6 years to really to figure it out. And I went through different functional doctors, through different herbalists, different people. I've spent thousands of dollars learning, cleansing my body, doing these things. And then I've learned about biohacking. And then Ben Greenfield actually was the one who I started. It was actually David Sinclair originally before I switched my career. Then I discovered Ben Greenfield, and then many other people came into my observation. I kind of learned and tried. And now it's just huge. And now I feel like I literally biohack my body now. And we did the test with Generation Lab and on 19 organs, and they're all 10 years younger, each organ.
That's amazing.
So even last year, I was only 5 years younger. And I said to myself, by the end of 2024, I wanted to be 10 years younger. And it took actually 6 months to do that. So, and now it's just like boom, boom, boom. And you can see in everything, and energy, the skin, the overall health.
Everything's up.
Yeah.
So really, really awesome story. Couple of things I want to touch on. I think everybody would appreciate food sensitivity testing. Lots of people say it doesn't matter. It is inaccurate. You've obviously had a very positive experience with it. Can you touch on, A, why do you think people have that opinion so viscerally that it doesn't matter? And B, given that you had a good experience, how do you incorporate it and use it with your clients?
So I think it's one of the first tests. I always say data is so important. I don't take clients and I don't work with clients if they don't want to, do the whole panels of data and, food sensitivity, heavy metals, mycotoxins, GI tract, full advance. And there's a few more that we need to have. I need to look at you and see where we at so we can have a clear protocol. Food sensitivity is major because everything that we eat, it's who we are, right? It's inside out. So, and food sensitivities, it changes from 6 months to a year. So I would say every year, you would do a new food sensitivity test, and then certain markers will stay there. Like I've learned myself over 10 years, I do it once a year. It's like gluten, like yeast, certain things in my body. It's just, that's it. I cannot have those. It's always there. And certain things are moving on and off, like there's no maybe chicken or there's no eggs this time of the season for 6 months. And then you clear them out and then you bring them back in. And it's tremendous how you feel because inflammation drives disease, right? And we have inflammation for a long time before we have a disease. So the foods inflaming your body, if you're constantly eating avocado, even it's healthy for you, it's not doing any good because it's raising inflammation. It's like a glucose, right? It's the same. So I think it's really important. It's one of the markers that you have to test once a year.
Really good point. I want to unpack it a little bit more so that anybody listening can understand. I think the philosophy that correct me if I'm wrong, you're referring to is the more you eat something, the higher the chance that a microallergen can be produced from that food, even though it's healthy, right? And therefore, sometimes eliminating that food and then reintroducing it later has a positive effect because your body doesn't like doesn't like the same thing over and over again. It's maybe, the other thought process here is we grew up to have different seasons, different types of food. Where we grew up was different. We were just talking about before even recording, we were both Eastern European, and so always in a hot environment isn't actually something that we like, right? So is that the correct, paraphrasing of what you're getting at?
Yeah, diversity is really important. So we have to understand we have to eat diversity. Like when you go to the store every week, I always look at it and say, what else haven't I tried, last week? Maybe
Hmm.
the foods that I might not like. It doesn't matter. I need to put that in my microbiome and change it, right? The bacterias. So I think it's really important to eat seasonal, local,
Hmm.
right? So that is like fresh. But going back to the food sensitivity, the body is a chemical reaction, simple as that. So we don't know how it's reacting on an everyday basis. So for us to know is to test and just to take proactive approach. And I've seen tremendous success on myself and few of my patients that have been with me for the past 5 years. Like all their markers changed. They've lost, we cleared diabetes, we cleared AFib, we've cleared so many markers, even in older people that you would think, oh, they might not, you know what I mean? It's incredible just making a few small changes. I even do it for my daughter. She's 9 years old. I don't do it like every year, but every maybe 2 years, I do certain things that we look at her markers too, because it's really important for the kids too.
Amazing. I did want to dive into mind-body medicine. I think sometimes people get caught up on that. What is mind-body medicine? Sounds woo-woo. Is it your mind controls your body, and so we have to optimize that first? Is it meditation as a way to basically, is it nervous system regulation? In your opinion, because you believe in this medicine, what is mind-body medicine and how do you use it? And then how do you incorporate it with patients to get health results that you want?
Well, I think first of all, once you change your diets, it's literally going to uplift everything.
Hmm.
And like your toxicity levels. Once you clear that, once your body becomes clean, the brain becomes clean. Even myself, in the past, even 2 years that I've been, stacking modalities and doing things, and I even noticed then, I was like, oh my God, I felt a little bit foggy back in the days. I felt a little bit more procrastination. You know what I mean? I didn't feel like I had energy to do the Instagram, the post. I was lacking. And now I'm on fire.
Yeah.
I remember even back in the days, like even 3 years ago, I'm like, oh yeah, I'll do the post next week. Oh my God, I don't have energy. It's just this, because your body is overwhelmed with toxicity first. And then when you CGM, I mean, gosh, I mean, that totally changed my life. Just
Yeah.
learning metabolic health on your own personal level. Because if you eat, we would have the same lunch, your body will react totally different glucose than mine, right?
Yeah.
So that's the number one. I mean, I can be your coach, but I have to show you the modalities to use to learn about your body. No one can tell you, hey, you're going to be eating salad, you're going to be eating chicken, you're going to be eating that. It might not be good for you. So we have to see the data. We have to wear the CGM device literally to look at it. I remember when I started using CGM device, I eat banana. It spiked me at 250 and it stayed for 3 hours steady. I was like, are you kidding me? Banana must be the most potassium, like everybody's eating banana. But in me, it's spiked. And since that, I don't touch bananas.
Yeah. There's a reason you didn't take it when I offered it.
Right. But the also going back to mind, I think once your body is clear, your mind is clear, and then changing your habits, like mindfulness, right? The breath work, the meditations, of course, connecting with the energy source. I've been, working on energy sources for as long as I remember. My dad actually was a bio healer. He healed with his hands. And then so I worked with a lot of different shamans, learning different energy work. So I do all that myself.
Yeah.
But for myself. But I think it's programming your mind, your habits in a way where you can say, if I look at inside my body, how is it chemically I can support
Hmm.
my whole system and hack it rather than thinking of, oh, I feel like eating that, ice cream,
Hmm.
of the feeling instead of reprogramming it. And we're not talking about like being robots, but knowing your body, how it's chemically reacting to every cell, every, thing, and kind of like guiding through. I think that's kind of like, but it only comes aligned once your body is clean. That's what I realized. If your body toxic and you're not having a proper diet and you don't know what you're doing, you cannot think clear.
Is your opinion that the diet is where we start and getting diet dialed in, getting the toxins out, and then you can start thinking that way? Or does there need to also be, like, you coach a lot of people, right? If they're not willing mentally to do what you're saying, then you can't do the other things. So how do you kind of navigate if somebody's mentally not there and they're not doing the things that you want them to do? Do you have specific strategies that have worked really well? Or is it mostly like anybody that comes to you is motivated and therefore they're going to do what you tell them? Because I'm sure there's probably some convincing that you have to do at some point.
Right. So I interviewed some people who actually do wanted to change, meaning they wanted to change. But when I talk to them, they want to just quick fixes. And I always say there's no quick fix.
Yeah.
We're here for a long haul because it takes time to really change, unchanged, basically.
Change and change.
Change to unchanged. So, and some people, they do not want it to work hard. And that's where if that person doesn't want to work hard to do the work, I would not work with them. I can give them tips and I can say, hey, do this, do that. And when I see them, let's say even some people, like I talk at the store, like Whole Foods or whatever, my neighborhood.
Yeah.
I've give them even free consultations because I want them to start, feeling great. Because when I talk to them, they're like, oh, I'm feeling this. I'm feeling like, I was like, come to me. I'll give you for consultation. Let me, help you, guide you through. And then when I tell them to do these things, they're like, okay. They took these tools. And then when I see them like next time, 1 month or 2 months, I said, have you done anything? What's new with you? They're like, yeah, I'm working on it, but what have you done? Nothing really. So people don't really want to do the work. And people who wanted to do work, oh my God, they become unstoppable.
Yeah.
It's like even myself, I wanted to do the work. I was eager to do work. And it took a long time. It was a hard work.
Yeah.
But now I can see myself. I can see in a few patients that have been with me, they're like incredible the way they feel, their look. And it's just like, yeah.
Amazing.
You need to put in work.
Yeah. I think that's a good transition to my next question. You started off as a Hollywood stylist, as a fashion designer. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but being a stylist and a designer is a lot about perception and beauty and putting somebody in a certain light, right? Did you pull a lot of those skills from being somebody who's positioning, who's presenting things to people? How did you pull, or maybe the better question is, how did you pull from that career into getting into health coaching? Because I think what is important, and people don't talk about this often, is you have to change people's perception of how they think, how they're going to approach their health, how they're going to do things differently. They have to believe you, but you also have to change the way they think, because as you know, their thoughts and their thought process is what got them into the patterns that got them sick. And so now you're rewiring those. So was there a correlation there? Do you feel like that really helped you? Or do you feel like there wasn't that much and you had to relearn a lot of things?
No, it is because I'm inspiring people. I get people fired up, right? I was like, oh my God, let me change you. And I will give them that energy. I'm like, oh my God, let's do it. Let me take your hand. And this is what I do with these people. And like, let's go to the store. Let's do this. Back in the days, I will go through their closet. I will be like,
Yeah.
slow and then so fast, and people saw the change right away. They're like, wow. And then even back in the days, I helped them with minimize health advices too, right? So, and they did look better, because maybe I would say, hey, let's hire a nutritional coach, let's get a better diet when they lose weight and the skin, and go to see a esthetician and this and that. So even back in the days, I was doing that too, but not in a deep sense, right? So in these days, it's the same thing. When I talk to you, I say, listen, I can make you in 1 year be incredible. Would you like that?
Yeah.
And people, they say yes. Okay, so
Yeah.
let me take your hand. We're going to have the step-by-step process unfolding. Yes, it's going to take time. It's going to take money. Are you ready?
Yeah.
And people say yes. And then I take them. And my beauty thing, after 6 months, when we pretty much work on many things, usually it's like takes 6 to 8 months to see the weight composition change, the glow of the skin, everything, and they start feeling better. And the next step, they wanted to invest in how they look. Then we go and we change the whole style. And even then, when I work with them, we're also changing everything, how they feel. I'm becoming their life coach too. What's happening in their life, their stress, their families. Like, I am becoming in a whole holistic way. And at the end, you get the whole styling. And so people out in the world now, my clients, they're not just feeling amazing, looking younger, but also feeling stylish. And even a couple of my clients, they call me all the time. They're like, oh my God, the shoes that you bought me, or like this, and or they told me like I look 10 years younger. Oh, my skin is glowing.
Oh, yeah.
They're like, they're so excited about this whole transformation. But I promise you, if you work with me, it takes 1 year, hard work, to take you from this person to that incredible, successful. And then once you start feeling amazing, looking great, everything becomes easy. Business becomes easy. People want to work with you. Yeah. You energize other people. You have that energy. You have that glow. You have that spark. You got the style.
Yeah.
And you are changing the world. So that's my beauty. I'd love to inspire you. I'll say, hey, listen, would you like to be from here to that?
Yeah.
And that's what I do. And it actually, it helped me to bring that from my styling. The same.
Yeah. No, it's awesome. And obviously your energy shows even in this interview, how you approach people, how you get them excited. And so I really appreciate that. I think a couple of things that you touched on that people sometimes try to put down or think is a negative, and I don't think that's true at all, is like, everybody wants to look better and everybody wants to be a better version of themselves. And what you're really doing is saying, I can get you there, but you need to promise me a certain amount of time that's not 1 day, 1 week, 1 month, right? And I think I listened to another podcast. Maybe there's a correlation here. It's like, I think it was Alex Hormozy who said, if I could guarantee that you're a millionaire, would you do whatever I tell you? And then the person said yes. And he's like, great, give me 10 years and I guarantee it. And then they're like, oh, like it's going to take 10 years. It's like, yeah, but I guarantee it. So do you still want to do it? And then they're like, well, yeah. But you're changing their mind, right? Because everyone's bombarding people with marketing saying, this new diet is the best. Eggs are good, eggs are bad. Every 4 years it switches, right? And it's like, this is the new thing. This is the best thing. This is that. And people are just very overburdened. I'd love for you to touch on that. And when you're working with patients, they're hearing about a new diet, they're hearing about a new influencer talking about these things. How do you navigate, or how do you get them to the point where they say, yes, I agree, and yes, I commit to that time? And then during that time, what are some of the challenges that come up, right? Like maybe they're doing well for 3 months and now they think they're hot stuff. And they're like, oh, Natalia, we're good now. We don't need to keep working. And that's not true. Can you talk a little bit about that process?
It's interesting. So I see I see a lot of men actually have that lung capacity to go through, and they stick with me for years.
Yeah.
A woman is really interesting. We're all hormonal. We all live in this emotional state. They're like, yes, let me learn really fast for like a month or two.
Yeah.
And they're like next thing, right? So, or like, they're like, give me now everything. So it's kind of harder to convert a woman and stay there with her for a long time.
Interesting.
And I'm okay with that because if I'm there to help you in any ways, in any, space, it's all good, right? So
Yeah.
maybe then I can give you that shift and that kick, and then you can, roll with it. But I see now a lot of my hardcore female clients, patients are my girlfriends now.
Yeah.
Why? Because they spend time with me. They travel with me. They see who I am, how I've changed, what I do. They see firsthand, and now they're like, just tell me everything. Like literally, is anything new? Just tell me. And they're like, let's do it together. You know what I mean? So, um, going back to that thought, what was the
Essentially, in the year, let's say of the minimum amount commitment that you're needing, people are bombarded with
Right.
messages, different things that they could or should be doing. They see other people doing it. They get on the new kick. And so that probably brings up some friction where you're like, we're on this plan. You need to stick to it. How do you kind of navigate?
Because I try everything myself.
Yeah.
So that eliminates a lot of noise.
Yeah.
I spent still thousands of dollars. Thank God I can afford that. Buying every equipment there, every vitamin, every test, everything. And I try it on myself. I see the data. I see what works, what not. And then the beauty is I illuminate for you all that's unnecessary spending. And also now being in this space and actually having interviewing the best of the best as well, and knowing what really works and what not. I mean, that's the beauty, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now I can tell you which test will work, which company will work, which supplement will work, what doesn't work.
Yeah.
And like literally tell you that, and you don't have to, and we can go really fast way to unfold yourself rather than it took me myself. Literally, look, it took me 8 years to get here, 8 years. And now only in the past 2 years, I could say, I'm flying, I'm flying. And even people say, like if you're taking a new vitamin, how do you know there's a change? Because you've been already optimized, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And now these days I go with it's the feeling of the knowing. It's this kind of like a gut feeling of the energy. So now I feel by the energy, and like, did it shift my kind of like something that is it's almost like a fine tuning, right?
Yeah.
So that's the way, because I already, take so much, do this and this. So it's like, yeah. But like, I'm basically like screening everything through myself. And that's the only way that I can, give you the right protocols.
The guidance.
And guidance.
The energy part is interesting. I think you're at a point, you've worked so long on yourself that you can see micro optimizations, right? Vast majority of people are nowhere near that type of intuition or alignment with their body. Do you have any insights on people who are trying to get there? Maybe they don't have to spend 8 years to get to that point, and maybe they can start noticing things on a minute level, maybe not as intuitively as you. But do you have any strategies or tactics you could share with us that might get them closer to where you are at?
Well, I always say we need to listen our gut feeling instead of just the noise in the head, right? So how do we do that? Some people, start with meditation, because even myself, when I got pregnant, I was heavily meditating and working with incredible Siberian shamans. I would go in meditations for an hour and a half every day, but not just sitting there. I was working with energy. I would go outside, stand barefoot next to the tree, and I would have to almost like find the spaces where the energetic flow is amazing and, do all that stuff. So actually, my daughter came in my meditation 6 months prior my pregnancy. And that I didn't even have, I wasn't even dating. And she came twice in the period of 1 month, exactly the girl when she was 3 years old.
Yeah.
And she was doing my hair.
Wow.
And I was like, wow, that's interesting. So that was so cool. I didn't want it to stop. I was like, please, 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 like, what else? What else? You know what I mean? And then 6 months later, I was pregnant. when I got pregnant, I was also meditating pretty heavily, doing all this work. And my daughter, when she was born, she was so in tune with me. Like, she would be like sleeping throughout the nights with me. She would wake up in the morning and wait for me to wake up. And as soon as I opened my eyes, a baby, born, she would be like moving, knowing that my energy just woken up. She would never wake me up crying or anything like that. I was stunned. I was like, oh my God, this little child is part of my energy being, and she lives, she feels my energy.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So, and then when I became mom, I didn't have this time to really go back into the earth and do this energy work and meditate between, like I said, I was going crazy between my full-time job, running the business, having the child, new marriage. I'm like, wow. And my mind became so crazy busy. Like, I remember having this peaceful, beautiful state of being when I was in meditations, now being this crazy bombarded. I even, like, when I went to sleep, my mind was rushing, running like crazy. And I'm like, oh my God, that switch, just like it took me 3 months to get off the zone.
Yeah.
And then it took me a while to get back into my feet, meaning it took me about 2-3 years to start going back into the energy field and listening to my gut feeling. Do you know what I mean? And so what I would say, we need to bring the noise down by calming ourselves. Maybe start with, like, there's so many apps there right now doing breath work, meditations, or whatever. I think the best way, I love going through the breath work that gets the best way into the meditation, and you feel incredible. And then your noise will come down and you'll start listening to your body. Your body will tell you what foods to eat, how do you feel, even decisions to make. Like, even now these days, the decisions that I make in my life, it's all by gut feeling. It's not my brain. It used to be always brain. I would be like, I'm a Virgo. I would be even like, not controlling everything, but like, but now it's just like, hey, the gut feeling. So I would say quiet your mind and your racy thoughts. And then once it stops there, you can connect. Otherwise, you can't connect.
Beautifully said. Beautifully said. Let's go into another topic that I am very excited to dive into for many reasons. Navigating a war when you were younger. Something I had to do myself. You got out of the war zone, but then you were in a place where you didn't feel like you could grow. There wasn't much opportunity. You went to the US, you made a name for yourself. Your work is in Vogue and all these glitz and glamour magazines, right? So that's an amazing journey of, optimism, of believing in yourself, of going after what you want. Can you talk us through a little bit? How did you make decisions? How did you navigate that part of your life? Did you just dive in? Did you have a plan? How was that process for you?
Well, it's a beautiful question. Wow. You did really good search on me. So yeah, I was born in Tajikistan. So back in the days, we had Soviet Union. And when the Soviet Union broke off, it was like late 80s, right? 89, 88, somewhere in that time. I was 10 years old. I remember how we went from Soviet Union to this new world. The money evaporated. Like, my parents worked, saved, everything. It was gone.
Yeah.
Gone.
It doesn't mean anything.
Was nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing. Money was gone.
Yeah.
Like, they had to start a new life, a new careers, everything, right? And where I was grew up in Tajikistan, the Taliban invented Dushanbe, where we lived. And so for 2 years, I lived under war zone. My dad left the war zone to Siberia to get a new job. He was an engineer, so Siberia was the only place in the whole Soviet Union or Russia now where you can go find a job and they will pay you a high salary because it was super freezing there. people would not going to want to go work. And so they will give you an apartment, they will give you a higher salary if you wanted to move there with your family. So my dad went there, but it took him about a year and a half to secure the job, get an apartment for us, and then come back, save money, and come back and bring us back there. But for that year and a half, we lived with my mom and two my other younger sisters in the war zone. I remember when the war started, I had premonitions. I kind of like, I feel like I'm a little bit psychic through my dreams. So I was 10 years old. I had 3 months prior the war start, I had in my dreams a war starting in my country. And I was like, oh, it's interesting. And then it started. I was going to school at 8 a.m. It was kind of still dark and by myself, and the gunshots starting shooting. And I remember a lady screaming, little girl, go down.
Yeah.
I go down. She's like, lay there. And the gunshots, and I was like, wow. And so she crawled down to me. She's like, where do you live? I'm like, over there. She's like, when I tell you get up and run, let's run. And now, like, took us half an hour till we heard, and then another 10 minutes, there was no gunshots, and we started running. And then gunshots again, we're like, go down. We're like, go down. We lay, and then we hear no. And then she ran me home, and then she had to go back to her place. That was amazing, right? And so since that, I remember I didn't go to school for a whole year. We were living in a tall building, like a 9-story. We lived actually on the border of the army base. Yeah. And so there was like, I can see the helicopters, the all kinds of, the army stuff.
Yeah.
And we knew when the helicopters were literally, we had windows like that, they would be like flying and looking for Talibans in each apartment. We had to keep all our curtains out and we had to hide under the beds because you never knew if they see something, they can just start shooting.
Sure.
Do you know what I mean? So it has to be like in the apartments, it had to be like everything, no movements. So I went that through, and then we moved to Siberia and coming to Hollywood. So that literally taught me to be resilient, right? Right away.
Yeah.
Came from war country to coldest country in the world, Siberia, in Mirny. It was a closed country, a closed city because it was a La Rosa diamond mine. My dad had a job there as an engineer. So we had to adapt ourselves from eating in Tajikistan, beautiful greenery, fruits and vegetables every day. What mom cooked for us for lunch, we would not eat for dinner because we thought it was a bad food. Because every lunch and dinner would be a new fresh fruits, vegetables, whatever was cooked on the table. When I moved to Siberia, we had to eat the same soup for a whole week.
Yeah.
And it was such a hard transition. I remember I was like, Mom, I can't eat. Nothing we can do. This is what we have right now. And it was a limited sources of supply in Siberia. I remember you're gonna love the story. I'm taking it off this because this is interesting.
No, I like.
So in Siberia, everything has to be imported, right? So there was no fruits, vegetables. We can only grow certain things like potatoes, carrots in the summertime for a short period, and then get our mushrooms and blueberries, marinate them, freeze them, and that's what we eat. The meats all came from Russia. So when someone has money, the meat arrives, everybody runs and starts buying as much as you can, right, for the season. So my dad bought half of the cow. And because you can put the half of the cow on the balcony, it's a minus 45. Fridge, right?
Built-in
so
freeze.
Just go out and carve the piece, thaw the piece, make whatever we wanted to make. One day, he carved out one of the piece, and it was a stamp on it. And he's like, oh, let me look at the stamp. How old is the cow? The cow was the same age as my dad. And my dad at that time was 45 years old. So we were literally eating a cow that was a 45 years old cow that was dead.
Wow.
But because they were pre-freezing it for World War II under the, so they were basically moving that old meat to Siberia.
Wow. That's
insane. So wild, the story, I remember, right? So
I don't know if I'm impressed, shocked. The fact that you didn't get food poisoning, like a lot of things could have gone wrong.
We were eating, we pretty much ate the whole cow till we found that stamp, It's like,
Yeah.
and we were laughing about that. But then my mom was a big part of who I am. She always, from the beginning, since I remember myself like 3 years old, no, 4 years old, she would say, there's no. You can ask people as many, they can say you many no's, but someone will say yes.
Yeah.
She always taught me. My mom was the biggest driver in my life. She would push me to say, you can do anything you want. You are the best. You were like this. And then when I was 15, my dad had little suitcase was locked. And somehow I was like, let me see what he has in that suitcase, right? I unlocked that suitcase and there was an amazing book by Napoleon Hill, Grow and Think Rich. I read that book literally in 1 week. It changed my whole mindset from that day, because my mom was telling me I gotta go be a doctor because doctors are making great money. My dad's like, maybe you can be an engineer. I was like, oh my God. So from that moment, I knew exactly where I want to be, who I want to be. And I was at 16, I went to engineering school because I wasn't ready to move out, have my plan, because I wanted to go to Moscow. Yeah. From that, I want to go to America. But at 15, as soon as I finished high school, I already had my plan, but I still had to go to university for 1 year, engineering school. Mm-hmm. And then from then, when I actually started my first business, real estate, I was brilliant. I made my first $1,000. That $1,000 made me to move to Moscow. I lied to my mom. I said, Mom, I'm going to be an actress. There's a university that they're accepting me. I am just, they're like, and I just packed my bags and I left, literally. And from there, it's just the whole history. I came to United States when I was 19. I lived in Moscow for 2 years. I went to acting school there. And then I came to United States, Las Vegas. And then from there, I was actually in the entertainment business for the first 10 years. I was an actress and a singer. I actually had a pop album that I never told about it.
We'll link it.
Like,
we'll find
no. So it's my alter ego.
Sounds good.
But I was, performing in Japan and some other parts of the world. And then I moved into fashion in my 30s, and now I'm in wellness. And I think this is my calling. I wish I would have started when I was like in my 20s, this whole wellness thing. But, nothing really exists back in the days. In the sense what we're doing right now, inspiring and coaching people.
But also, I mean, there's so many strings that you're pulling from lived life experiences, dodging bullets, eating 50-year-old meat, doing business at 15 to save up to go to Moscow, doing acting, which is performance, so being able to engage people, right? Like, I think all of these things.
I just now marinated and putting it together to move and shake the world.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah. No, it's an amazing story, right? I think lots of kudos to your parents for instilling that mindset that you can do anything. I think most people grow up with their parents telling them, don't be naive, don't be stupid, don't do that, take the safe route. I think similar to you, I escaped bombs dropping on my head, and my dad was in the war. I didn't know if he'd come out alive. My parents' families grew up in different religions, so they actually had a lot of conflict. And it was like, you had to navigate all those things, and you kind of learn, right? Like
And my dad was a Christian and my mom was a Muslim.
Same.
But it wasn't like they didn't practice, but their families were kind of like a little bit like in front of
literally the same.
Yeah, in front of my mom's mom, I couldn't say God.
Yeah.
In front of the dad's, I couldn't say, oh, we go to mosque or we do these things. So it was kind of like this two-story thing for the the grandparents.
Yeah.
But yet my parents were really cool. They were just, my dad was very engineer, very artsy and very spiritual because he was a healer, but he couldn't practice back then his true passion, true calling. And my mom was like a go-getter. She was just like, nothing will stop her. She's still like that. And so I got both words.
Yeah, you definitely did. And you're definitely like that. So great combination and a great family unit. last thing I want to get into, I'm dying to know your opinion on the Don't Dive movement. I know that you went to one of the meetups, you met Brian Johnson. I think there's a pocket of large majority of people don't actually know what that means. He's a great marketer, and so he gets people riled up, right? What is your opinion on death? Should we, some people say, hey, let's die gracefully, die healthy, but die gracefully. Some people say, I want to live forever. Some are saying the worst thing is in your wisest years, you end up dying, but you're so smart, right? And like maybe the best example of this is Warren Buffett. He has like 90 years of experience and knowledge that he's progressively built up and neurons connected in his brain. And, he's like 94. So the odds of him living another 10 years are not that great. Where do you stand in this topic and how do you see it?
Yeah, I love this question because my grandma lived to 106 and she died because she didn't want to live anymore. She just, like there was no more energy.
Yeah.
She's like, and she died peacefully. And now living in the desert in Palm Springs, I see a lot of older people and I talk to a lot of older people. And there's a lot of people are actually living longer lives. And I see some of them are still, like, let's say, pushing 98, healthy, glamorous. They've lived this incredible life. And they decided to go away because they decide there's nothing more to see. There's nothing more to learn. I've seen everything. And when they make that decision, they just go away peacefully.
Yeah.
And that's the way I want to die.
Okay.
I wanted to live as long as I can in the most profound, beautiful, healthy energy, but also I want to explore the world to the end, where at certain point I would say, I've taken everything I can. I've given everything I can. That's it. I'm ready to go. And that state of mind, I wanted to go away. So, and I do right now everything I can to get at that point when I can just make that subconscious decision and say to the gods, to the universe, now you can take me.
Yeah.
So...
Well, very far from that because, like you said, the world's your playground. You're just starting in a new industry that you really resonate with, and obviously, you're such a net positive to be in it. So, on behalf of everybody, we appreciate you being here. How can people connect with you? What's the best way to reach you? And I know you put a lot of content. You're all over social. So let us know. How do we connect with you?
Well, it's social media on Instagram. I'm pretty active there. I love that platform. I'm there every day. NataliaNaila.com. I have a website, NataliaNaila.com, which I do a lot of blogs there on a lot of interesting companies and what really works. Also, I have a retreat that I run every winter in a desert in Joshua Tree, Palm Desert. It's a wellnessisliferetreat.com. And I'm revamping my whole YouTube channel. We're going to go so strong, so big. In the next 6 months, I'm going to be putting more interesting video content, longer content, more educational content, which I'm pretty excited about that. And and just working with my favorite companies like Thea and so many other incredible companies that I wanted to, through me, to show the world, here's the best and let's do it together. We're here to help you. We're here to guide you. And going back to Thea, I wanted to actually say that best way to change metabolic health is to do testing, but also wear the CGM device. This will change your life because once you're wearing CGM device, and in fact, I wanted to put one in right now.
We can do it right now.
Yes,
yeah, absolutely. Let's do it.
I need to change one
right
now.
Let's do it.
And so that's the only way to learn everything about your metabolic health. Looking at your app at every second and seeing how your glucose is acting in your body. And once you metabolically change your life, you are unstoppable. And that's the number one thing I would tell everyone.
Amazing.
Metabolic health. Test, wear a CGM device, learn about you, and from there, you're unstoppable. So let's put one on.
Let's put one on. Amazing.
So we're gonna untwist, and this is
Untwist, yeah.
twist. And usually you will have there's a little like
Little swipe. Why don't we?
it's okay because I'm clean. I'm clean.
Okay, you're clean. You're
But
clean.
usually you'll have a swab, and then it's super easy. People always ask, "Is there a needle?" I mean, there's a needle, but it's a super soft. Explain a little bit quicker. What kind of
So people think a needle goes in the arm. It doesn't. It's a split second to get a filament into your arm. The filament is bendy. So as you're moving, you don't feel anything.
You don't feel, yeah.
It's like 5 millimeters. You can't. You won't even be able to see it on the screen how small it is. It doesn't hurt. I'm the biggest wuss when it comes to taking needles. I need like 7 nurses fanning me, feeding me grapes, singing me songs, right? But this, I put on all the time and it's super easy.
Yeah. And so I've learned from wearing a CGM device for 2 years, there's certain places where actually it's a good way to put. It's like sometimes when I put it in the wrong places, I was bleeding and I was like recording the video and I'm bleeding. And my daughter is looking at me, it's like, "Mommy, you're bleeding on the floor." I'm like, "What?" It was just drip. I'm like, "Oh, shoot." Okay. So I like to put usually on the arm. A lot of people put in the belly, but because we wear jeans and all that for girls especially. So I kind of like this area instead of in the back where
it's anywhere where you can find a little bit of fat cells.
Yeah, so I kind of like it right here.
If you do lower, usually there's tendons and more muscle. That's where people will notice a problem. But as long as it's up here.
Right. Yeah. So I'll just put it here and literally you just kind of like push. 1, 2, 3. That's it, you guys. Simple as that.
All done. It's on there.
And I love how it's by Libre, right?
That's the Libre, yeah. That's the Libre.
So it's a super small device. You don't have to do anything. You can put a patch if you're scared that you can take it off or you don't want people to see there's cute little patches. It's waterproofed. Every 2 weeks, you'll remove this. You'll put a new one. You activate it through the app.
Yep, exactly.
And the beautiful thing about Thea, it's great with practitioners, which once I have the platform, I can monitor all of my clients' data and suggest more things. But if you're just out there, you can still use it, buy it and use it, and monitor your glucose. I mean, it is hands down one thing biohack. If you have to start somewhere, wear a CGM device. And I'm not selling anything. I'm just saying this is the one thing that will change your life.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. It's why we built the whole company around
I'm super excited how it's small now.
Yep.
And
Totally.
It's awesome. Thank you so
cool.
much.
Thank you. Great job. You were amazing. A great story.